Hello, it's February 26, 2014, and we find out that despite the TEPCO and U.S. Navy's official position that dose levels were safe for the personnel on the USS Ronald Reagan in the immediate aftermath of the Fukushima nuclear meltdowns and explosions in March 2011, a stunning new report indicates the U.S. Navy did indeed know that the sailors from the nuclear-powered USS Ronald Reagan took major radiation hits. If this report is true, revelations cast a whole new light on the $1 billion lawsuit filed by the sailors against Tokyo Electric Power. Many of the sailors are already suffering devastating health impacts but are being stonewalled by TEPCO and the Navy. The Reagan had joined several other U.S. ships in Operation Tomodachi, meaning friendship, to aid the victims of the March 11, 2011 quake and tsunami. Photographic evidence and first-person testimony confirms that on March 12, 2011, the ship was within 2 miles of Fukushima Daiichi as the reactors there began to melt and explode. Now, the lawsuits tell that everything that happened at the time. We've gone over this in other stories. Deckhands were enveloped in a warm cloud that had a metallic taste. They say that the Reagan's 5,500 member crew was told over the ship's intercom to avoid drinking or bathing in the desalinized water drawn from the radioactive sea. The huge carrier quickly ceased its humanitarian efforts and sailed 100 miles out to sea when newly published internal Navy communications confirmed it was still taking serious doses of radioactive fallout. Now, I'll link to this in the article associated with the video, but one of the 81 plaintiffs that's suing right now in the federal class action is a sailor who was pregnant during the mission, and her baby AG, born that October, had multiple genetic mutations. Again, officially TEPCO and the Navy say the dose levels were safe. Now, they're talking about a report by an American scholar based in Tokyo, which confirms that naval officers communicated about what they knew to be serious irradiation of the Reagan. Written by Kyle Cunningham and published in Japan Focus, Mobilizing Nuclear Bias, describes the interplay between the U.S. and Japanese governments as Fukushima devolved into disaster. Now, that report is here. It's a very long report. It too will be linked in the article associated with this video. But I went straight to the category of negotiating risk, international divergence, and radiation assessment. And in a transcribed telephone conversations between U.S.-based federal government officials, nuclear authorities, U.S. embassy officials in Tokyo, and military staff in the Pacific Command, made available through an FOIA, a Freedom of Information Act, the U.S. government response to the nuclear crisis can be seen in real time as it played out over the course of the first month of the crisis. You have Admiral Donald. Early this evening, the USS Ronald Reagan was operating off the coast of Japan. The ship, just arrived. We had given the ship some guidance as far as positioning was concerned to stay clear of the area of the potential plume. Basically told her to stay 50 miles outside of the radius of the 100 miles, 50 miles radius outside the plant and then 100 miles along the plume with a vector of 45 degrees. The ship was adhering to that requirement and detected some activity about 2.5 times above normal airborne activity using onboard sensors on the aircraft carriers. So that indicated that they had found the plume, and it was probably more significant than what we'd originally thought. The second thing that happened is we had some helicopters conducting operations from the aircraft carrier, and one of the helicopters came back from having stopped on board the Japanese command ship in the area, and people who had were on the helicopter who had walked on the deck of the ship were monitored and had elevated counts on their feet, 2,500 counts per minute. But I wanted to get you guys on the line and my expert on the line so we can get data and then the proper people notified. So somebody named Mr. Poneman. Okay, I have a couple questions. Number one, in terms of the level of radiation that you're picking up, what's the delta between that and any information we have from the Japanese or other sources of what the level of radiation would be given the venting and so forth that we know has occurred? Mr. Mueller. So, this is Mueller. The sample that was taken and then what we detected were 100 nautical miles away, and it's, in our terms, it's compared to just normal background. It's about 30 times what you would detect on just a normal air sample out at sea. So we thought based on what we'd heard on the reactors that we wouldn't detect that level even at 25 miles. So it's much greater than what we had thought. We didn't think we would detect anything at 100 miles. You didn't think you'd detect anything at 100 miles, Mr. Poneman again is saying. Okay, then in terms of regulations and so forth of people operating in these kind of areas, I forget some, acronym for it, PAD, Protective Action Guidelines or something. How do the levels detected compare with what is permissible? Mr. Mueller. If it were a member of the general public, it would take about 10 hours to reach a limit, a PAD limit. Mueller. Right, for a member of the public. Poneman. Right. You mean at the level you detected? Mr. Mueller. Yes, sir, but 10 hours. It's a thyroid dose issue. Mr. Poneman. Okay, but the net of all this is the amount of release that is detected by these two episodes, whatever you would call them, is significantly higher than anything you would have expected what you've been reading from all sources. Mr. Mueller. Yes, sir. The specific number we detected was 2.5 times 10 to the 88 minus 9 microcuries per milliliter airborne, and that's particulate airborne. We did not take radioiodide samples, so I don't know that value, but this is particulate airborne. Mr. Poneman, tell me again exactly how you picked up these two forms of samples. Mr. Mueller, we have automatic detectors in the plant that picked up the airborne, and all the continuous monitors alarmed at the same level, at this value. And then we took portable air samples on the flight deck and got the same value. Admiral Donald. These are normally running continuous detectors, continuous monitors that run in the engine room all the time, monitoring our equipment. Mr. Poneman. These are detectors on the Reagan? Admiral Donald. On the Ronald Reagan. Correct. Mr. Mueller. Yes, sir. Mr. Poneman. On the Ronald Reagan. They're there because you've got equipment there that could emit stuff, and while you were there you picked up stuff that was ambient, which indicated you actually were in the plume. Mr. Mueller. That's correct. Mr. Poneman. And this was 30 times higher than what you would have expected? Mr. Mueller. Yes, sir. Okay, given that, and down here in the same area, at 100 meters away, the helicopter was reading 4 sieverts per hour. That is the astronomical number, and it told me what that number means to me, a trained person, is there's no water on the reactor cores and they're just melting down. There's nothing containing the release of radioactivity. It is an unmitigated, unshielded number. That comes from a confidential communication from September 17, 2012. Now, that one came from 2012. The original one, as it says earlier in it, was real time as it played out on the first month of the crisis. So what they're saying is members of our Navy knew that they had been in the actual plume. And right now, they're saying they didn't know that they had safe levels. This report is a blockbuster. This is something that everybody that's in denial about the damage that Fukushima has done and what it's done to these poor men and women on the USS Ronald Reagan, these people should be drawn and quartered. Take care of these people. Their health problems, I mean, they say it's devastating. That's worse than devastating. You've got people that have said that they're practically blind from it. They've lost their hair. They have families that they have to take care of. Give them whatever it takes to take care of them and their families, because we knew what had happened. They should not be stonewalled 3 years later as some of these people are dying. This is wrong. Our U.S. Navy is wrong here, and this needs to be made right. Have a good day.